Yo, what's up guys, Rackals here. Welcome back to a brand new Quake video. So today I'm just going to be talking about the quality of my videos and that sort of stuff, because lately I've actually been having some issues with my videos visually looking really bad, basically. Now, I do always record and edit and upload and all that in 720p, and that's just because I don't have the best PC in the world. But lately, sometimes it seems like the YouTube compression side of things is really doing some heavy work on my videos, and it's making them look really bad in some parts, unfortunately. Now, I'm not really sure exactly like what the cause of this is, because I mean, I can show a side-by-side comparison of like the rendered / edited video that I'm uploading versus what it looks like when it's actually on YouTube. But yeah, basically what I'm uploading looks fine in like Media Player, for example, and then once it's on YouTube, their compression algorithm is just going nuts on it. So to fix that, I actually did try to set up 1080p recording, because it's actually not something I've ever tried to do before. I always just sort of assumed that my PC wouldn't be able to handle it. And unfortunately, I was actually correct. I mean, the video itself looked fine, but for me, whilst playing it, it was cutting my frames. It was very noticeably not smooth, basically, on my end, which is really, I mean, not fun to play with, basically. Like, if I'm recording, obviously, even if it would look fine, I want to be able to play well, and having inconsistent frames just doesn't really go with that. So the next thing I tried was to continue to record in 720p, but I would render it at 1080p to try to avoid like getting the YouTube compression, because that's actually a trick that some other people that I know use, but it's usually done more in higher resolutions, like for example rendering a 1080p video at 4K so that YouTube doesn't compress it. However, that didn't really help. If anything, after some testing, it kind of just looked maybe worse. I don't know if that was just placebo, but bottom line is it didn't really help, so there's no point in doing it if it's just gonna look the same anyway. But I'm actually might have to try recording in 1080p again, and let me explain why. So I decided to stream some modded survival over on my Twitch channel using an older mod pack known as Tekkit Legends, and I noticed that although it was fine when I was just playing it, once I tried to stream it, if I went full screen, it would be like 2 FPS. Like literally just unplayable completely. So to fix that, I tried to go and add more RAM, and for some reason it was capping at 1 GB of RAM, and it wouldn't let me go anywhere above that. And having only 1 GB of RAM allocated to Minecraft is not a good idea, even if you're just like playing survival, and then let alone, you know, trying to run a mod pack. And I figured out that the reason that it wasn't letting me allocate more is because I somehow ended up with a 32-bit Java installation instead of a regular 64-bit, which is what my computer runs on. It's a 64-bit processor. And I instantly knew like how that happened. Basically, about a week or so before, I updated Java, and just sort of since then had been having trouble like with my game completely freezing for like tens of seconds at a time every time I joined like a lobby or a new game. Nice server, by the way. I can't talk, I can't leave. It's probably just gonna disconnect me from the server. People could still move though. Other people could talk. A kick occurred in your connection, so you put in the Quakecraft lobby. Kind of doubt that that lobby exists anymore. A few years outdated on that message, Hypixel. Where was I? Right, so I was having problems with, like I said, my game was totally freezing for tens of seconds at a time, and I sort of realized that that started happening after I updated my Java about a week prior. And I know for a fact that I was using 64-bit Java, because that's just what I had on my PC. But if I had to guess, at one point or another, I also had 32-bit, so I just sort of had them both installed. But it was running the 64-bit version, of course, because that was probably my most recent installation. But when the little notification popped up that said it's time for a Java update or whatever, it sort of took that from the 32-bit installation that I maybe just had still. I mean, I don't know. I'm not exactly a computer expert, but that seems like the most plausible thing to me, because it doesn't really make sense for it to downgrade itself into a 32-bit like on its own like that. So I have fixed that now, and since then I have not tried recording in 1080p again, and I'm kind of considering whether I should try to set it up again, like change all my settings, and then if it doesn't work then just change them back, sort of like I did before, because I did just follow like some YouTube tutorial, of course, that had like hundreds of thousands of likes, so you know, it should in theory work pretty well. It just wasn't for me because of my PC. I don't know, I'll see maybe about trying that again now that I'm running the proper version of Java, because I just wasn't for like a week straight. Also, Also, whilst I was having those frame issues where it was totally freezing, I noticed that it was only happening on my client that I was using, which was PvPLounge at the time. So I decided to switch back to Badlion, which I used to use almost like a year ago and then hadn't for a long time, mostly just because of all the drama that went down. However, since then, the owner who was exposed is no longer a part of the team. So that's why I decided to go back to it, is because he's no longer a part of it. Of course, I do not support any of the old owner's actions or anything, but the way I see it, it's as if a restaurant got a new owner, but it's all the same staff, so you're still getting like the same food that you were before. I don't know if that's a good analogy, but that's the way I see it. So that's why I have mostly been using Badlion lately. However, I've actually still been using PvPLounge every once in a while. Like, I'm sort of switching between them because since I, fixed the Java thing, I'm not really having the issues with PvPLounge. So I've been switching between them both. I think I definitely do prefer Badlion, but there are things that I like and dislike about both of them. So maybe that could be its own video someday. And because I'll get questions about it, I don't use Lunar because it just doesn't really work with my PC. Regardless of my Java installation. It was capping out at like 40 frames max when I tried it, and it was super buggy and crashing a lot, so I kind of gave up on it. And I mean, both these clients work fine. I don't really need a third client. So the final thing I want to talk about today is the audio quality, which I mean actually is not really bad at all. I do use a Blue Yeti microphone, which is pretty good. However, it is notorious for sort of picking up like everything, like all the background noise and all that. And I live next to a fairly busy road, which means I often get loud cars, trucks, motorcycles, etc. going by, which can be very annoying in the audio. You can hear it in a few of my videos at certain parts when there's like a loud thing going by in the background. So to try to get around that, I tried to use a program called NVIDIA RTX Voice, which is actually pretty new. I think it came out late-ish or to mid last year, and it's super cool. And what it is basically it's an AI trained voice software that automatically removes anything that's not a voice from your microphone input, which is super cool. And I tested it out. It does work very well. You couldn't hear any of the stuff outside. Most notably, if I say, for example, like smashing on my keyboard like this and talking at the same time, you couldn't hear my keyboard at all, which is super impressive. But unfortunately, while I was using it, my PC, somewhat unsurprisingly, just wasn't really good enough to handle it, unfortunately. It was most noticeable in calls. I constantly had people complaining that I just sounded very robotic, and I noticed it in recordings sometimes when I was testing it out. So unfortunately, I did actually decide to remove that, which, I don't know, might be good news for those of you who'd like to hear keyboard and mouse sounds like in videos, because I know a lot of people do like that. Personally, I'm just indifferent. If I get a better PC sometime, I'll try to reuse that again, or a different program. I know there's one called Crisp that does basically the same thing. Guess you just have to deal with the keyboard and the cars and the 720p and all that, because for the foreseeable future, I have no idea if I'll be upgrading my PC, mostly because I just don't even really know where to begin. I literally know like nothing about PCs or building them or anything. I mean, I can tell you my current specs are a GTX 750 Ti graphics card and then a Intel Core i3 processor. That's about the extent of my knowledge, but I know both of those are kind of mid to bad, but it is what it is. I've been using the same PC since like 2015, I think. I mean, one day I would absolutely love to record in 1080p or higher so that the videos look way better. And of course, I would just be able to play much smoother than I do, because sometimes I do notice the frame drops, not in stuff like Quakecraft. But that's actually going to be it for this video, I think. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is actually the second time I recorded this. I recorded it last night, super late at night, just completely unplanned. And I think it was the worst video I'd ever recorded, so that's cool. It's kind of funny because my first video back was also completely unplanned and super late at night, but it didn't turn out as bad as this one. I guess I was just extra tired, maybe because I had to get up for work in the morning. But yeah, be sure to follow my Twitch where I do stream, and the video quality on my streams genuinely looks better than like half my YouTube videos, just because there's no YouTube compression on it, or I guess video compression from rendering or anything too. Twitch.tv/Rackals. Hopefully I'll see you there sometime. Bye.